Hey guys, my name is Black Eye, an ADC main with about 2,200 worshippers with Medusa, and today I will be showing you how to effectively play Medusa in Conquest. Just a quick disclaimer, this is a Medusa guide, not an ADC guide. I will assume you already know the basics of how to play an ADC, and will only teach you how to effectively play Medusa as a character. I should also note that Medusa is played a little bit differently on console versus PC. This is due to the fact that you have to be looking away from her ultimate to not take the full amount of damage and get stunned. On console, the sensitivities tend to be lower, making it harder to dodge her ult, and on PC, the sensitivities are a lot higher, which makes it easier to dodge her ult. Therefore, on console, there are things you should do differently versus on PC, especially in the laning phase, and I will address this when the time comes. If you would like to skip to a certain section of this guide, feel free to look at the table of contents in the description. Medusa's builds are a bit different from every hunter build because there is always one item that I will put in every single Medusa build. This item is Hasten Fatalis. I'm going to talk about Fatalis later on when I discuss Medusa's passive, but for now I'm going to include it in every single build and will always include it in every single build unless it gets nerfed to the ground and costs 4,000 gold. But as long as it keeps its passive, then I will always include Hasten Fatalis in my build. The way I would start Medusa is with Bluestone, Tier 1 boots, and 3 health and 3 mana potions. I know you have enough gold for 4 health and 4 mana potions, but sometimes I find this unnecessary and I would rather save the 100 gold. A common mistake that I see people make with Medusa is starting Bluestone and Tier 1 Transcendence and then either 2 health 1 mana or 1 health 2 mana. The reason I see this as a mistake is yes, you get more power, but you don't get as much sustain in lane because of the lack of potions. So if the enemy duo lane is good, especially if they are aggressive, then they will see this and take advantage of it and be very, very aggressive and drain your potions, and you will have nothing left and you will have to back early. This allows them to get ahead in lane and they can just snowball from there. I'm going to brush over builds and probably just throw 3 on screen because builds are constantly changing, but there are 3 builds that hunters generally go. I'm going to quickly brush over builds and just throw 3 of them on screen for you to look at and decide which one you like, because hunters just generally go one of 3 builds unless they're going some really jank build. And honestly, Medusa is effective with all 3 builds. I prefer the Shifter Shield build, but that is the first build I'm going to throw up is the Shifter Shield build, which consists of Warrior Boots, Shifter Shield, Hasten Fatalis. I get that 3rd item instead of Odysseus's bow. Odysseus's bow is what's usually in it, but with Medusa I'd rather have Fatalis. So then after Fatalis you would get Executioner, Kin Size, and then a crit item if they're squishy, or another penetration item if they're tanky. The second build involves Transcendence. This build is Warrior Boots, Transcendence, Hasten Fatalis, Executioner, Rage, and Deathbringer. The third build is without Transcendence, and it's Warrior Boots, Ichabod, Hasten Fatalis, Executioner, Rage, and Deathbringer. Obviously, you can switch some items out for others based on the other team comp, or if you don't like crit, completely take it out, but I do like crit, especially on Medusa, because if you catch a squishy with your ultimate and their beads are down, you want to be able to erase them as quickly as possible. But those are my 3 favorite builds, and I've used all 3 and have had success with all 3. So it's down to preference and what the enemy team composition is. I know I said I wouldn't discuss ADCs as a whole and just Medusa, but I feel like this needs to be said. Of course, if you're very behind, then you don't want to get Fatalis 3rd item since it is 2,600 gold. So I would just skip Fatalis and go Executioner, and then I would get Fatalis or another attack speed item such as Ichabod if you're really behind. But at some point in the game, if you make it that far, you should get Fatalis even if you're behind. You might notice that lifesteal isn't in any of these builds, and that is just because in this meta, lifesteal isn't really as important as it used to be, especially on Medusa where I feel like the damage is just too important. But if you feel like you need lifesteal, then feel free to trade out a Fatalis or a Deathbringer for an Aussie or a Bloodforge, preferably Aussie for the attack speed, but if you already have a lot of attack speed, then you might as well just get a Bloodforge. But these builds are just my preferred builds, and neither of them contain lifesteal. So let's start off by discussing Medusa's passive and abilities, and I will start with her passive. Medusa gets no movement speed penalty when side strafing, and her movement penalty is halved when moving backwards. This is why Fatalis is so good on Medusa. she suffers no movement speed penalty when she's side strafing, so it's really easy to box people and dodge their auto attacks. And also, if somebody is slowed a little bit, then you could actually outrun them while moving backwards and shooting them with your auto attacks. Even if you can't outrun them, it'll still take them a good amount of time to get to you if you are backpedaling while shooting autos at them, and they're going to take a good deal of damage before they actually do reach you. And then when they do start hitting you and auto attacking you, then they will slow down and you can regain your distance again. It may not seem like a big deal at first glance, but trust me, trying to box a Medusa with Hasten Fatalis is very, very difficult, especially if you can hit most of your autos. Medusa's 1 changes her next 3 arrows into poisoned arrows. This increases her attack speed and does extra damage over time. There's not really much to this. Auto attack cancel with it. Don't be afraid to use it on objectives because of the attack speed increase. And yeah, this is pretty self-explanatory, not really much to this. Medusa's 2 is called Acid Spray, and it's her main lane clear. Basically, you just spit on people, it does damage, and it explodes on impact and goes into a cone. It's just a simple damaging ability. Again, there's not really much to it. You hit people with it, it does damage, it's your main lane clear. You're going to want to auto attack cancel with it, try to combine it with your other abilities, but that will be explained later. One tip that I can give you on this is if somebody is just out of range of an auto attacker, her 2, try to bounce her 2 off a minion or another god, because the spray will give it extra range. So if someone is really close to dying but just out of range, just try and find something to hit your 2 off of that'll give it enough range to hit the person and finish them off. Just a quick tip for when clearing lane with your 2, if you notice your opponent is close to the lane but not quite in line with the minions, then try to angle your 2 to hit both the minions and them and then immediately back up. If you do this a few times, that'll be a good amount of poke damage. Medusa's 3 is actually pretty interesting. It may just look like a simple dash at first glance, but it does a lot more. It does damage, it stops people if you hit an enemy with it, and it actually gives a 50% healing reduction for 3 seconds. Like any other dash, you shouldn't want to initiate with it unless you plan on committing and you know you aren't going to get ganked. But you should also try to combine it with your other abilities due to the fact it stops the enemy for about a second. So this gives you a chance to auto attack cancel into your 2 or 1. If you're using it to escape, make sure to be very, very careful that someone doesn't cancel it by walking in front of you. You have to make sure that they are either directly beside you or behind you before using this, because even if the very, very edge of your 3 clips somebody, it'll stop you in your tracks. Also, don't take the healing reduction for granted. 50% is a lot. Therefore, if your 3 is up and you are chasing a healer down, such as a Sylvanas, a Hell, or a Ra, then you shouldn't immediately use it. You should wait till they use their healing ability and then use your 3. That healing reduction when chasing a healer down could be the difference between a kill or not. Medusa's ultimate is what makes her really good on console versus PC. Basically, she does damage in a cone-like area, and if the enemies are facing you, they receive the full amount of damage, plus they are stunned. If they are not looking at you, then they take 75% of the damage and are slowed instead of stunned. In a boxing match or a 1v1 scenario, then there are multiple ways you can use this ult. What I did, and this works especially on console, is if you are playing people that are, I want to say, plat 4 or below, then you could probably get away with this, but you could actually start the fight with your ult and actually ult them while clearing the lane. They don't expect you to initiate your ult, especially before the lane's clear, so it'll catch them off guard, and if their beads are down, then they're just instantly dead. If not, then they will beads it and dash away, and you can dash towards them and try to get a kill off them. But at higher levels of play, this doesn't work because people will be better and will be expecting it. But I wouldn't make this a habit, because as you start getting better, you will start playing better players, and this will not work, and it will just be a waste of your ult. But when boxing someone, when I get them to about half health, I use my ult and back up. I don't run towards them, because what people will do is get really close to you when you ult and then quickly move left or right. Since your ult is a cone, you can actually miss somebody when they are directly in front of you based on how it's shaped. So I would back up if I am in a boxing fight and using my ult, but I would move towards them if they are about to run away. Also, don't be afraid to use your ult just as a slow. Worst case scenario is you get their beads and they escape. Best case scenario is they're slowed enough to where you can catch up and kill them. In team fights, I would wait for a hard CC or when people are grouped up and it's easy to get a 2, 3, or even 4-man ult. So this works well with a Geb ult, an Ares ult, or just any ult that can hit multiple people and hard CCs them. From there, I would just target the squishiest character, or if the warrior is on you, then just back up and try and kill him / survive. Another tip with Medusa's ultimate is to not be afraid to use it defensively. What I mean by this is if you are losing a fight and currently running away from the enemy and you still have your ultimate up, you can turn around and ult the enemy team just to slow them down so they can't catch up. My final tip on Medusa's ult is while Medusa's ult can't go through walls, it can go through towers. So if an enemy is hiding behind a tower at low health, you could just tower dive them, ult, and get away very, very quickly. A lot of new people to Smite do not know this, and you could take advantage of it if they don't. Medusa is one of the few hunters that benefits greatly from auto attack canceling. There are many combos you could do, but the most basic one is auto attack dash into them, auto attack 2, auto attack 1. And then you could also ult if you need to. What I don't suggest doing is auto attack dash auto attack ult, because you will be very close to them and the odds of hitting your ult are reduced due to how close you are. If you dash into them and immediately ult, all they have to do is move a small distance left or right and you will miss if you don't quickly adjust. So you could use your ult after your 2 or after your 1, but that's only if you need to. If you get the entire combo off without missing a shot, they should be near dead, especially if it's late game. If it is late game and you're building crit, you might not even want to use your 2 because it will do significantly less damage than if you were to hit it critical. This combo isn't as prevalent in team fights because if you use so much time on one enemy, odds are another enemy will just come over and start attacking you and you will want to be dodging that too. So I'd only do this in a 1v1 scenario or if you can quickly pick off somebody. Medusa is an aggressive lane bully. Try to poke your enemies early, and then when they get low, just quickly finish them off with an auto attack cancel 3, auto attack 1, or auto attack 2. If you notice your opponent is fairly new to the game or not as good as others, then you can try to catch them off guard with a quick ultimate into a dash. And unless you play too aggressive or you're just playing someone that's significantly better than you, you really shouldn't lose lane that much as Medusa. Clear the lane, try to get a quick kill if possible, and just keep farming up until late game. Remember to rotate when necessary because Medusa's ultimate can completely change a team fight. But that'll be it for this guide. If I missed anything or feel like you need to add something, leave a comment. Also in the description is my live stream link if you would like to watch me play live. I stream pretty frequently, at least a few times a week. And yeah guys, this is Black Eye, thank you for watching.